In this video, I'll walk you through using Zoho CRM's workflow rules to automate your processes like a pro. I'm Drew Brockbank, owner of Brockbank Consulting, an elite Zoho partner, and I've implemented Zoho for over 141 organizations. If you'd like help with Zoho, book a free consultation. You can get to workflow rules by going to the cogwheel at the top right. We're inside of the one.zoho.com environment, so if you don't see it at the top right, you might be in the Zoho CRM standalone environment, in which the cogwheel will be at the bottom left, okay? Either way, just get to the setup section via the cogwheel, click on it, then you can go over to setup and you can type in workflow rules, and you'd wanna click on this one that says rules, workflow rules, okay? Or you can, so we'll click on that just to show you where this takes you. If you want, you can also just scroll down to this workflow rules tab. Now from here, we're going to show you, here's a bunch of different workflow rules in this demo instance, but let's go to create rule. We're going to select the leads module. Now we're going to back up and I'm going to give you a use case here so that this makes sense why we're doing this. This use case probably won't apply to you, but the reason I'm giving a use case first is every time you create an automation, you want a good reason why. You need a situation that's occurring that you're wanting to automate. And it gives you, once you understand a situation, it gives you clarity on why and how to automate it, okay? So don't just take this for face value what the use case is. Take away the principle. That way you can apply it to your own organization, because that's the important thing throughout this video is you get the principle behind automation. So the use case here is we are a sales manager, okay? We just went into an organization. We got a new job as a sales manager. And we've noticed that the leads that are being generated, there's a lot of leads being generated. None of them are being followed up on. With that information, we've decided to create an automation here in the leads module so that when a lead is created, a notification is being sent to the owner of that lead with a link for them to follow up, okay? So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for our team to follow up with these new leads so that the opportunities don't fall through the cracks. That's the use case. So we're going to put here new lead, send a notification to owner. Okay. We could put, you can have any kind of naming conventions you like here, but I find that if you just write it out for what it's doing, that's the easiest way to go. Execute this workflow rule based on record action. We want when a record is created, right? When a new lead is created. And we don't want to do this for every lead, because to give some more context here, and the nuance is important when you're doing automation, it really is, or you'll build automations that don't work. So you really got to think about the situations. In this fantasy organization that we're talking about for this use case, they've got a subscriber form and they've got a contact us form. So both of those forms being filled out do enter the CRM, just in different stages. When it's contact us, we mark it as reached, okay, reached/booked. And then when they submit the subscriber form, they enter marketing ready, okay? So we've got these sales ready / reached that come in through the contact us form. And then we've got this subscriber form for those who went through our subscribe to our newsletter form, okay? So why do I bring that up? Well, here we would do the status is, and then we're going to do reached. And you can see reached is a status there. And so I'm going to go to next. And you want to make sure, just as a side note, that your lead statuses are actually reflective. So you've got raw lead, lead marketing ready, sales ready. You want to make sure your system is built from left to right. You don't have to use the leads module. I encourage it most of the time, especially if you're doing B2B. That's another discussion. If you want to watch some of my other videos to get more into it, but reached is much further along in the process than a marketing ready lead, which would be like someone who subscribed to a newsletter. Okay. So now we've got our trigger for the workflow rule. We've got our if, which is the condition in which this would be executed. This is very important. It's optional. We could, by the way, if we wanted to, we could just select all leads. So that's an option as well. We just don't want to do it in this case. We've got our instant actions and then delayed or scheduled actions. Okay. So instant actions, we're going to look through these different options. We can do a field update, assign owner, tags, notify activities, create record, convert, webhook, function, execute circuit, send smooth, SMS. All these different options. What should we do? Well, you've guessed it. We're going to do notify via email. Because again, our whole situation is we're wanting to send out an email every time a lead is created. and we want to select this lead notification email. We could create a new one from scratch. I'm going to show you what this looks like. So we do new lead notification. And then we're going to do the lead owner, right? Because we're not emailing the lead. We could send a welcome email to the lead as well. That would be a different workflow rule we'd want to create. But in this case, we're trying to create an email for this person that's assigned to them so they can use their own follow-up cadence with a lead that's being created. We're not going to select send this notification as a single mass email because that is not applicable. We're going to go to select template. Now, I would want to select the new lead email, notification email, because if we preview this, this is exactly what we want, but I'm going to copy it and we're going to create one from scratch just to show you how this all works. So we're going to go to insert HTML plain text because this is the kind of email template that will look most like a transactional email that you sent from your inbox. So keep in mind, if we automate an email being sent from Zoho CRM, it's going to, it's not coming from your Gmail, your Zoho Mail, or your Outlook email client. This is coming from Zoho CRM. So you want to make it look as natural as possible. Okay. Especially if you're going to send emails to them, you don't want those two bars on the side and it to look like a promotional marketing email. You want it to look transactional. That's why you should go with insert HTML plain text. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to let this load up. We're going to paste the contents here. We're going to do new lead notification demonstration, right? Because I'm doing a demonstration with you. So that's what I'm going to refer to when I find the template. But the email enter template subject, this is the actual email subject line that my employees are going to get when this fires. So I'm going to put new lead notification follow up. Okay. You can put whatever you want there. That's just an example. So I put, hey, lead owner. So the name of the lead owner. So let's say it was assigned to me. It'd be like, hey, Drew, first name, last name. Let's say it was, who should we use as an example? Elon Musk just entered the CRM as a new lead. Here's a link to the new lead. And what we've done here, so we've added merge tags. If you want to add a merge tag, you can always go to this hashtag or pound symbol, and then you can scroll through and find different information that you want to merge into the email, which is really handy. So you can do that. Here's a lead or link to the new lead. Here's the base URL. All I've done here is I've just gone into a lead and I've just copied everything in the URL here up until the last bit. So this is the Zoho One interface. So it's going to look a little different, but I can still use it. If you're in just Zoho CRM, this wouldn't work for you. And then I've just pasted it. And so we're essentially just merging in the lead ID here, as you can see. And so that is what we're seeing here, this ID. Right? But do you see how much nuance and detail? Automation takes a lot of energy. Okay. People don't talk about this. And so you want to be very strategic with what you automate because strategy is prioritization. Or in other words, you're saying there's a million things I could automate today if I wanted to. There's a million things that I do. But strategy is saying, what should you automate based on having a finite amount of resources in time and energy and an infinite number of things you can automate? How are you going to allocate a finite amount of energy and resources in time to infinite number of things that you can automate? Okay, so that's the game that you have to play. A lot of people will say, well, I would do it if I just knew what to do. Do you understand how much work it takes to even get to the point where you're like, this is what you should do? For people even to carve out the work that you need to do takes so much energy and time. The prioritization and strategy takes a lot of time too. So that's important to understand because I might be going through this and you may be thinking to yourself, this is a lot to think about, like having the base URL and having the ID. Well, you got to think about all these nuanced things because if you just say, hey, lead, first name, last name, just enter the CRM as a new lead, and you don't have this section, then they're going to be like, great, where's the lead? Now I have to go in and what custom view am I going to use? So you just want to make it really easy for them, okay? You can think about this as like automation experience design or system experience design, okay? Okay, so here's a link to the new lead, merges over. Yes, we can grab this as a merge tag if we go to ID. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to save this. And we're going to save this to the public folder and we'll hit save there. Excellent. Okay, now we need to go back and we need to refresh. we're going to see new lead notification demonstration, which is the one that we just created, is the one at the top because this is sorted by most recently created. I'm going to select that. You can see new lead notification demonstration is selected there. Excellent. We're going to save and associate, and this is ready to go. This rule will execute when a lead is created if the lead status is reached, or in other words, if it's at this part of the process reached. And finally, the then or the action is we're going to send them an email. Who's them? The owner of the record, not the actual email of the lead, which is the person who submitted the form. That'd be a different workflow rule, which you can certainly do. And then here's the actual email that will be sent out to them. Okay, so those are the different components of this automation. Now we're going to move on to a more advanced automation. Now we're going to go over a more advanced workflow rule. But before I do that, I want to take a step back and I want to make a note on this principle because these use cases may not be applicable to you, but the principles will be applicable to you. And every single workflow rule has three main components, okay? It's got a trigger event that will kick off the workflow rule, or in other words, it's got to have a win. When is this thing going to start? Every workflow rule has to have a win, okay? So in this use case, the win is when a deal is created or edited and it's closed won, okay? Then we get into the if. So that's the win. The if is, do we want to do this for every single time this trigger happens or just in certain situations? So for example, I don't want to trigger this workflow rule every single time a deal is created or modified. That's a lot of triggering events. I only want to do it for the events in which a stage is closed won, or in other words, I want to do this when a deal is marked closed won, or when someone wins a deal, okay? And then when that event occurs under those circumstances, so the when, the if, then I want to trigger this instant action, okay? If you can understand those three components, the when, if, then, you've understood the basics of all automation for everything, whether it's email workflow rules, whether it's notifications, whether it's triggering scripts, whatever it might be. That's the basic stuff, but it's important to understand because that's what you can build upon to get better and better at automating things, okay? So the when is deals created or edited, stage closed won. So in other words, when a deal is closed won, then we want to trigger this function. And the situation here in which we want to create an automation is this. If you are, for example, doing B2B and you want to check the lifetime value of an account, you want to see how valuable is this account, how much money have we made from this account, how much revenue have we generated in the organization for this certain account. Let's say you are a Zoho consultant and you work with a large organization and you've done 10 deals with them over a couple of years. Well, you want to see what those deals have amounted to in terms of dollars, okay? In terms of revenue, for those of you who are outside the US. And so now we're going to build a function to do it for us automatically. If I've done 10 deals or 30 deals or 50 deals with an organization over the course of 5-10 years, I don't want to add that automatically. I want the system to do it because it's mundane, it's routine, it's not worth my time, okay? So that's the use case here as a backdrop for this. Let's get into the function. And I've already shown you in the previous section how to get the when and the if, so we're not going to go over that all over again. But now in this function, this is on the deals module, by the way, that's an important note. Once we get to the function, we're going to click on this function and you can copy this if you want. Zoho gives you this script out of the box. Maybe I'll do a video on custom scripts, but this one's so easy and it's easy to implement. So I wanted to use it in this demo. Okay, so this takes you to the Deluge code editor in which you can add code to, and this might be intimidating and you might think to yourself, I never want to get into code. Well, I think it's important if you really want to get into useful, really useful automations. You have declarative programming, which is what I showed you in the other section, which is, it's almost like the drag and drop builder where you don't have to use code to automate. But code just allows you the greatest amount of flexibility so you can get the exact automation that you want. And automation does come down to nuance. Everyone in their videos is going to tell you this stuff's so easy. It's really not easy. This stuff gets more and more difficult and more important as you grow because these are problems of scale. When you automate, it gives you massive returns the more that you grow. So you want to get it done as early as possible because on the flip side, if you do it early, if you don't do automation early, you get massive growing pains. And so you want to make sure that key things are automated early on because you'll thank yourself later, okay? Pays you dividends down the road. Back to this. what we're saying here is we want to go to every deal associated to an account once a deal is closed, which is the trigger before. That's not in the code here. This is just the action that's going to take place. The total is going to start at $0, but we're going to go through every single record in deals that's associated to the account. And we're going to make sure that the stage includes 1. And then we're going to, over and over again, go through every single deal and add the amount to this initial total of 0. And so if we had 10 deals, it would iterate through every single one of those 10 deals and then take the amounts and add them together. And then it would go to that account, find the field deals 1 amount, and then total. We could say lifetime amount. We could change that to whatever we wanted. That's just the API name that's set there for now. Okay, so that is the workflow rule that you'd want to create. You can copy this if you want. This is just a really simple script that you can use to automate something. But again, this is the key principle here is, and you'd have to get someone to script if you want to use Deluge, which is the language that's used in Zoho for automation. A lot of these CRMs have their own custom language so that they can essentially lock you into their system. Maybe they have other reasoning for it, but that's the reasoning I think. But the principle I want to get here across here is fundamentally there's 3 different sections of automations, the when, if, then, and you want to be careful about what you automate because you can go really far down the rabbit hole. So you want to build a good use case or a good, you want a good argument for why you automated something. And a good way to do this and decide what to automate is just see what's painful for you. Hey, this is really painful to do on a regular basis. And if you're doing something that's routine and has a pattern, more likely than not, if you can't automate the whole thing, there's key pieces of it that you can automate to make your life so much easier. Okay. So with that, that is the automation on deal close 1, roll up deal amount to account. And we're going to move on to an even more advanced automation to give you even more ideas on what you can do with Zoho automation. I don't just want to show you how to do these things. I really want you to understand the principles, because once you understand the principles, you can go buck wild with automation and you can make your life so much easier and you can scale so much better and faster. So what on earth am I talking about? We're talking about Zoho Flow now. Zoho Flow is not Zoho CRM. It is a separate application dedicated to automations and integrations. Think of it like Zapier. You probably know Zapier. Zapier is another tool that is popular for integrating and automating other applications and platforms. But if you're going to pay for Zoho, if you're married to the Zoho ecosystem, and most people that I meet are like all in for Zoho, they get Zoho One, which I recommend that you at the very least just check out Zoho One, evaluate it. If you're a small organization, it is a steal of a deal. It's the best deal in business software if you're a smaller organization. This just allows you so many more options for automation. Let me just give you an example. Let's just create a flow. Let's just do example here. And I'm going to show you all these different applications that Zoho Flow can automate and integrate with. Look at this. This is crazy. So if you have a technology stack, and you probably do, it's the technology that you use to operate your organization and get your job done, then you can probably integrate with one of those apps using Zoho Flow. And if that option doesn't exist here in this list that I'm showing you, this crazy long list, I'm going really fast, then you can also use their backend API if they have an API for the application. For those of you who aren't technical, don't worry about API. That just means allowing other applications to talk to your application. That's what an API does. Okay, let's go to this specific automation that I want to focus on, which is Calendly to lead integration. We have reached a more advanced automation. They get way crazier than this, but this is a fun one, okay? So events scheduled by invitee. This one, I'm gonna let myself just go loose on the details. Usually I'm like holding back in certain sections. I'm like, I don't wanna overwhelm the person who's viewing this. I don't care. This is for those of you who are crazy, okay? So, and you wanna do the most with automation. So I'm using Calendly. You might be looking at this, you're like, that's Calendly, right? It is. And I don't use Zoho bookings, and there's a really good reason why. On my website, I have a Calendly form here, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's interesting. Isn't Drew the Zoho guy? Isn't he's talking about unlock Zoho's full potential? And then he doesn't even use Zoho bookings. That's actually a good critique. That's an honest critique. I have a very specific requirement. If you look in the link in the description of this video, you'll notice that there are UTM parameters at the end of the URL. Okay, they'll say, you know, when you click on a URL and then it blows up and it's like, blah, 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 it's super long and it's got like source this, medium this, campaign this, and it's got all that data and it like kind of glitches out. That is tracking data. People are tracking what you engaged with so they can double down on what's working and stop doing what's not working from a marketing perspective. That might not apply to you at all. Again, these are just principles. I'm trying to help you understand the depth of system experience design, automation experience design. Okay. Why do I bring all that up? Well, let's just say I had a URL here and it had UTM parameters at the end of it. Then I would want that to enter the CRM. So I needed to go from the URL into the form and then over to Zoho. How do I actually accomplish that though? I can't do it with Zoho Bookings. Zoho Bookings doesn't even allow me to grab UTM parameters, so I have to use Calendly. Calendly is my only option. Once the Calendly form is submitted, so that's the reason I bring that up. That's why I'm using Calendly here. Then we go to create a lead. So the information that's collected on the form. So when someone submits this form, you can see we're kind of booked out. Let's do this. The information that's here. I want to push that information to Zoho CRM and create a lead. Then I want to get the Calendly information, and this is where it goes crazy. So I'm using a function now. I can use drag and drop blocks, and then I can also use custom functions. That's what's nice about this Zoho Flow Workflow Builder. I should probably do a whole masterclass on this. There's so much to it. Then I push the information to a tool called Clay. So you can see at the very start of this flow, and Clay is a separate application, but the idea I'm trying to get across here is you can talk to other apps. So I send an ID, I send the company name, last name, first name, and email, and I say, hey, this information I am sending to you from Zoho Flow, and I want to grab additional information. Let's take a step back. Essentially what I'm saying here is, in my organization, when someone fills out a form, I don't just want their first name, last name, email, phone number, company. I want their LinkedIn connections. I want their LinkedIn profile. I want to know their title. I want AI to summarize their website and then update their record so I know what industry they're in and what they offer. Because when I get on that first sales call with someone, I want to be as prepared as possible. I also want to send a workflow. I have a workflow rule trigger that sends them an assessment that they have to fill out, and they have to fill out like 30 questions. I do all of that so I have good information up front so I can get up to speed faster. Okay. I don't want to get on that sales call and say, what position are you at in the organization? It's 2024. We can get that information through lead enrichment. That's what this is. It's a lead enrichment tool that is very effective. Okay. And I don't even pay for it. It's free. You get like 100 credits a month. So why not? Why not get this set up? Okay. So company, last name, first name, email. AI finds their LinkedIn based on that information. So you say, hey, Clay AI, go find this LinkedIn profile based on the first name, last name, email, and company. And then they find it for you. It's about an 80% success rate. Other tools such as Apollo have like a 20 to 30% success rate. In a lot of my experience with those tools, I get like a 20% success rate. It's just ridiculous. It's not great. From this LinkedIn profile, I can add these other blocks and I get their name from LinkedIn. I get their title. I don't really need name. That's a little redundant. Connections, followers. I get a headline. I get their summary. I get their country. I get their location within the country. I can even enrich information from their organization. And then I could even spin it off and say, how much revenue do they generate? So I know how big of a company they are. How many people are a part of their organization? How many employees do they have? Those are different ideas I'm giving you. It's not in this flow exactly, but you could certainly do that in this flow. That's not beyond the scope of what this can do. And then I get the company profile, LinkedIn, and then we push that information back. Okay. So this LinkedIn call, a call is just saying, hey, we're going to push this information to another app. Where do you want to push this? And we're pushing it to this webhook so that I can update the lead. So this is the Clay data enrichment. Okay, so we're pinging information back here. So it's going back into this flow. Okay, and then we got the offer, which is an AI summarization of the website. You might be thinking, well, how'd they get the website? From the email, we just use the domain from the email. Okay, so if it's Gmail, it's not gonna, we're not even gonna fire this off. But if it isn't Gmail, Yahoo, any of those popular ones, then we use AI summarization there. Okay, organization services. Oh, another way I could solve that problem, by the way, here with this email is I could do a validation rule. I don't know if I haven't even tried this, but on Zoho Forms, you can certainly do it. I could have a validation rule on the email and say, enter your work address. And it would check for me if it had an option like that. That's another way I could try to solve that problem. Anywho, if you go back to this, we got organization services, then sales process. We're doing a ChatGPT prompt here. I just wanted to show you can easily add ChatGPT to your workflow for free using Clay and using Zoho Flow. Zoho Flow has a ChatGPT action that you can drag and drop as well. Just a heads up there. And essentially I want to know their sales process before I meet with them. ChatGPT is not going to be 100% accurate, but they're going to give you an idea. So let's just see. Here's the Brockbank Consulting response. Brockbank Consulting sells Zoho implementation and improvement services tailored to Zoho users. Their ideal customer profile likely includes businesses and organizations that use Zoho products and need expert assistance to optimize. How do they know this? They sell to their customers by highlighting their tailored services, right? So this is coming from ChatGPT. It's great. It's great stuff. Not super in depth. It's kind of a basic response, but I could sharpen the prompt and get better information. And then I have the company call, which is again sending the information here to this webhook and then updating the lead. So that's another advanced. So I wouldn't even. It depends on who I'm talking to. This is like a moderately advanced script. Okay, there's a lot of moving parts, but if you think about it linearly, someone submits the form, we send from the form, we add it to Zoho CRM. From the CRM, we take that to Clay, we enrich, that's what we're seeing now. We get the enriched data, and then the enriched data sends 2 payloads back to Zoho CRM and updates the lead. So hopefully that just gives you an idea of some of the more advanced, crazy things you can do with automations within the Zoho platform. I know we started with Zoho CRM, and it's a Zoho CRM workflow video, but we're talking about automations in general. Again, I really want to get these timeless principles across because these timeless principles can be applied to everything. The tactical stuff is usually use case specific. And so you might even go through those other 2 sections and say, Drew, like the way you set that up isn't going to work for me. Well, it depends on your situation. And I can't go over every humanly possible situation in these videos. I can only confine myself to certain use cases. And then beyond that, the only thing I can do to serve you in these videos is to give you the principles, teach them the best of my ability so that you can apply those principles in different ways. And so hopefully this gives you a better idea of how you can create advanced automations. Hopefully it gave you some inspiration on what you can do. And that is how you create automations inside of the Zoho platform.